Good. Who's smiling from ear to ear? Anyone? Is that good? Let me ask you a question. What do you notice about the person that you're about to hypnotize before you actually went over and shook their hand and met them to do your induction? Anything? Now, the reason I ask this is because it's pretty common. We blank out portions of our experience because we only focus on what we think is going to be important. Maybe the handshake, maybe the actual induction, the setup, and so on. Does that make sense to you guys? What I'd like you to do is to get sensitized to what happens before the formal hypnosis begins, because that's going to tell you where their unconscious mind is at. Does that make sense to you guys? Now, I don't know about you, but when I first came across the idea of, I think in NLP it's called calibration. People have different names for it. I like to call it unconscious signals. So when I first came across this idea of unconscious signaling, I was overwhelmed. I mean, how am I going to read all these things? What does it mean? The tiny little flick of a finger. Maybe they've had, an affair when they were 4 years old, right? How am I supposed to make sense of all this stuff? It took me a while to start figuring out. And there's a couple of things that you should know. The first thing you should know is, whilst people, and this is absolutely true, different people will have different behaviors which are idiosyncratic, and that'll tell you how that person's thinking at that point in time, how they're feeling, and that sort of stuff, right? However, the thing that very few people in the hypnosis industry talk about, I don't even know if they know it, is that there are a lot of very standard signals that are just part of human nature. In other words, whether you're sitting in the jungle, or you're in New York, or you're in Paris, you will get the identical same signals, unless the culture suppresses them for cultural reasons. Does that make sense to you guys? So the easiest way to recognize these things is basically to know what to look for. And one of the ways to do this is I call segmenting. You just basically chop the body parts up, not physically, please, no blood in the room. And you just spend some time observing different parts of the body and how they behave. Right? It's actually really, really easy when you do it this way. So rather than trying to see everything at once, which is quite difficult, you're just going to focus on different parts, and then you'll notice it's kind of one of these weird things, like when you buy a new car or a new dress or something really important to you, and suddenly it pops up everywhere wherever you walk, and you're like, what the hell? Why are these people wearing my clothes? Right? It's because your mind's become sensitized to it. It needs to look for that information now because it's important. And the same thing will happen to body language. So I'd like to spend some time, if it's okay with you guys, sensitizing you to body language so you can start finding out what things mean. Would that be okay with you guys? So here's what we're going to do. It's going to be very, very simple. We're going to move around, and these are going to be quick exercises, so please keep your ears attuned so I can move on to the next phase each time. Essentially, all you're going to do is you're going to move around, and you're going to meet someone. Shake them by the hand, say, hi, how are you doing? Great to meet you. Nice talking to you, and off you go, right? So the content of the conversation is actually relatively unimportant, and it should be brief, because you want to meet as many people as possible to get a pattern developing. Does that make sense?